Hey, this is Bryce Harper, and welcome to the Phillies Show.
Hey, everybody. Ruben Morrow Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalecki. The Phillies Show brought to you by Foul Territory. It's Monday morning, December 13th, 2024. We're all back from the winter meetings. You guys have fun at the winter meetings? Ruben, you were all over MLB Network all week on MLB Network. Do you have fun doing that?
Pontificating, coming up with the crazy ass ideas. I actually was fun. It was really cool to be back there again. I actually it had been like 10, 12 years since I've been back to the winter meetings. Wow. It's kind of crazy. Maybe a little less than that. No, 2000, maybe it was 5 years, but then before that, it was a long time. So yeah, it's been a while.
Right.
But it was fun seeing a lot of people. I saw my brothers. Saw my brother Ruben Andres. I saw my other brother Luis, a couple of agents, and a bunch of people, man. It's great to see. Really great to see a lot of the people there. But I also was really glad to be out of there because it's just a lot.
It is a lot. I saw Ruben Andres. He is much better looking than you. And
shocking. My dad throws some good genes out there, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I also saw you throwing out some stupid trade ideas on the MLB Network. The kind of stuff you used to hate. The kind of stuff you used to hate.
Now I get to throw them out there without enough research to really toss them with any sort of accuracy.
You used to say, "You moron," and now you're throwing that stuff out there.
Isn't that great? Isn't it awesome? And I get paid for it.
That's fun. Well, it is fun to kind of hash over some of those trades, you know, or just throw out some hypotheticals and what would it take to get a deal done. Speaking of that, Garrett Crochet got traded to the Red Sox was it the last day of the winter meetings? Yeah, it was the last day of the winter meetings. 4 prospects. The Phillies were in hard on him in July, and Dave Dombrowski talked afterward about it. And you want me to read kind of what one of us asked him, how do you balance giving up a major package for a player and not kind of like overpaying or mortgaging your future? And he said, you always weigh those things. I've been there before, done it before. Not sure it was the right time for us to do that right now. And he goes into, I think there's a few reasons behind it. They have 4 quality starting pitchers, but he said, we also really wrote out the development of our farm system over the last few years. And we're just getting to the point of having the impact of those guys. It's not quite there, but we're on the verge of having some really good players. Yeah, what was your reaction to that?
Go ahead, Jim.
My reaction to that is he does have 4 starters that they like, that are good, that, to get a guy like Crochet would be making a strength stronger, but it's not an absolute priority, especially when you have other needs. And I see a team that's going to be very protective of its prospects. I think they're willing to part with some in the right move, but they're going to be protective of their upper tier because if you look at this roster, they have a lot of 31s, 32s, 33s, and approaching 34 that are going to be aging out here in the next year or two, and they need capable replacements. So I think the White Sox probably never backed off Andrew Painter. That's pretty much the Phillies' only untouchable, and they're not going to do it there. They got a good package from the Red Sox, and they proceeded in that regard. So, I wasn't surprised the Phillies didn't get it done. I think it was much more of a focus and a priority in July. I think they made a pretty good offer of a couple of really good prospects, but Painter wasn't in it, and so the Red Sox get him. And if the Phillies were, if number one starter on their rotation was a huge need. Was their key need standing in front of them winning the World Series, then it might have been a different situation for Dave Dombrowski, who was not afraid to deal prospects. But in this case, in that particular move, they don't make it. And I don't even think they were really a finalist for in this time frame. July, maybe. White Sox obviously held on to him, but not now.
Yeah, a couple of things to unpack for me in this. While they are hell-bent, the Phillies are hell-bent on winning and winning this year and next year and the following year. I think Dave Dombrowski is coveting, as Jim said, some of the prospects. Now, it just sounded like to me that in order to get Crochet, they would have had to have parted with Painter and Miller. And in this situation, it was a little bit like the reason why I didn't part with, Dom Brown and Drebeck. I mean, what was it the right move? I mean, we probably could have parted with Dom Brown and Drebeck at the time to get Roy Halladay. But when you have your top tier starter and offensive player, it's very difficult when you're trying to sustain your organization for long success to dump those pieces. And I think you're right, Jim. I think the starting pitcher was not as big a priority as, adding something to the offense or getting a bona fide closer or something like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't make that move. And I totally get it. I'd like to see them do more. There's no question that there's more that needs to be done for them to improve this team. It doesn't have to be huge, but it has to be something that is of some significance.
Yeah, Dave said that as well. He said, I wish we would maybe done a little more. We just didn't feel comfortable. Then he added this caveat, which I think everybody in Philly's world should remember, but it's not done either. The meetings are done, but the conversations aren't over. So, they still have moves to make. They can still make moves. The offseason is not over. But, going back to that July thing, the one thing I heard about the Crochet deal is that the Phillies really truly believe they made a super, super attractive and very fair package. True Crochet in July. In fact, the one thing I heard about that package is that, have you guys ever gone into a store and bought something, and at the moment of purchase, you're like, man, this is, I really can't take this hit on the credit card. I don't know what I'm doing here.
You mean
like almost immediate pre-buyer's remorse. And then you make so that was kind of the vibe I got. And what I've heard is that the Phillies were almost going like, this is a lot. This is a lot. And so when the White Sox said no, there was almost kind of like, maybe that's not so bad. So, they were willing at the time in July when you had 3 postseasons potentially of Garrett Crochet. Now you've got 2. So that's also, I think, a factor in some of that.
When they had 3 postseasons, and Ranger was, banged up, and
right.
All of a sudden, starting pitching was quite a need, and they were getting nothing out of the 5 spot. Now they've hit the reset button. There's only 2 postseasons, and they have reason to believe and have faith that Ranger will bounce back, and you'll be going 4 deep, and Painter's going to be here. I don't know, sometime midseason ish. Yeah. So it changes the calculus a little bit.
So some of the best trades that you make are the ones that you don't make at times. So that's something to think about too. I mean, trades are tough. I know people are itching to have Dave Dombrowski make a big move. Well, they've made some big moves. I think they have to do some tweakage, right, Jim? Right. Some tweakage to get this
tweakosity.
To the next level.
Tweakosity. We got Tweak Nation. Holidays, guys, are just around the corner. Make sure you go to Shibe Vintage Sports for all your holiday gift needs. They have stores in Westchester, Wayne, Center City. Ardmore is their brand new store, and you can go to shibesports.com. Ruben and I are sporting some Shibes gear today. And if you go to shibesports.com, use the promo code the Phillies Show 15, you get 15% off anything you purchase. And I also want to promote on Sunday, I will be at the Ardmore store, the Shibe Vintage Sports store in Ardmore, brand new store from 1 to 3 p.m. before Eagles kickoff. You can stop by and pick up a signed copy. I'll sign a signed copy of Doc, The Life of Roy Halladay. And we will also have some Philly Show t-shirts there to purchase. So stop by.
Oh, nice.
Get a book, get a Philly Show t-shirt, get an Eagles t-shirt at Shibe, flyers. You can get the Spectrum one I'm wearing, the Ben Franklin Bridge one Ruben's wearing. You can get all sorts of cool stuff. So that's Sunday, December 15th, 1 to 3 at the Shibe Vintage Sports store in Ardmore. Come by, say hello. Check it out. Talk some ball, Come on.
You can double dip.
You're good.
You can double dip. You can double dip with the Todd Pod and the Doc book.
That's right. Exactly. Go. What better way to say I love you?
And if you're in Ardmore, you can stop by the Ripplewood. They have a great burger.
Oh, love
the Ripplewood. Yes.
That's a great idea, Jim.
Right.
They have a great burger.
A pre-snackage at the.
We got to get them as a sponsor. The old Ripplewood. That's many times we chatted about it.
That's the first time I ever mentioned them.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
We'll bring a burger on the next Todd pod. Let's go.
Yeah.
Todd and I hit In-N-Out Burger in Dallas.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. So Monday night we're like, where do we want to go eat? And when you come to Texas, what do? You go to the California fast food chain. You go to In-N-Out Burger, and so Jim and I crushed some In-N-Out. In fact, Jim and I got in the Uber, and the guy goes, "Where you guys going?" We go In-N-Out. The guy goes, "What the hell are you doing going to In-N-Out in Texas?"
Exactly. I went out and had a little USDA grade beef.
Yes, I did that.
Beef, and you guys went out and had a little California In-N-Out, but did not think of me. Thank you very little.
Well, you sound
Next
like
one back.
Next time we will make sure to include you. So Scott Boras also talked on Wednesday before Dave Dombrowski talked. Yeah, Scott's annual thing. You know, it's funny. People kind of goof on Scott's funny language and jokes and whatnot. I find him to be very entertaining on those days because he says a lot of great stuff. Yeah, he's very entertaining. He's say what you want about Scott Boras, but he's like the best or one of the best, however you want to look at it. You know, agents in the business. He makes his clients a lot of money. And I asked him about the Bryce Harper contract extension. It was last year at the winter meetings. Scott Boras brought up the idea of Bryce Harper needing a contract extension or a renegotiation because for various reasons. And I said, hey, a year has passed. What's going on? Is this something that Bryce still wants? Is this something he needs to get done? He said, there's no question that those dynamics are being discussed. John and Dave have taken the time to talk to me about it. So we're in a place where there's very good communication, understanding what's going on. Jim, you wrote about this a lot the other day. What did you take of Scott Boras? What'd you write?
So when Scott does that big press conference in the lobby with all the writers around him, it's great theater. He reminds me of the Grand Wizard of Wrestling. Do you remember the Grand Wizard of Wrestling? Yeah, he's spouting everything. It's so much fun. But what do I take away from it? Bryce Harper's getting an extension. Don't know when, don't know how, don't know how much, but they're going to address it. That's the vibe I get. If they're talking and if he's using words like it's being discussed and there's an understanding, parse it out. It's happening. That's my opinion and my belief. I don't know when. I don't know if it's next month or next year or 2 years from now. Maybe they clear the All-Star game. I don't know, but I think they're going to show Bryce Harper some more love on in the form of an extension, his current deal, and there's no rush. Right. His current deal takes him through the age of 38. He's going to play at 32 this year. Takes him through the age of 38. So he wants to play until he's 40 or into his 40s. I think they'll address that in some way, shape, or form. And for context, when he signed with the Phillies in March of 19, Todd?
Yeah.
$330 million was biggest total value in baseball history. It's really, now it's like 10th, I think. And his AAV, he agreed to spread it out, keep the AAV down so they could do more things. And they have done a lot of things. But now that AAV of just over 25 million ranks number 30 in baseball. If what they're getting out of him, you could certainly see why the Harper Boras camp thinks they might be underpaid, given what's happened in the game and what's happened around them. And I think the Phillies are going to address this. Not sure how or when, but I think it's going to be addressed.
So my opinion is it will not be addressed.
Oh, wow.
And that if it does get addressed, it won't be for another 4 or 5 years at the very earliest. I think that they are discussing it, but I think Scott's discussing it internally, not necessarily much with the Phillies.
I'll bet you a burger they do something at some point.
I'm going to make you go get In-N-Out Burger for me whenever I want it.
But now, so there's no time frame on it, though. So I mean, like Jim said, it could happen a month from now. It could happen 5 years from now, like you said, Ruben. But it's at some point maybe it will happen. They'll tweakage the contract.
If it happens within 3 years, the next 3 years, I buy you a burger. If it doesn't, you buy me one.
You're on.
All right.
Beef.
Nice. I had a great brisket on Sunday night in Texas, by the way.
Nice.
So I did hit the barbecue. So the Phillies did not make a trade for Garrett Crochet. They got Jordan.
No. I want to know what you think. What do you think of the?
What do I think? I think that something is going to happen. I do think that something is going to happen. I think the Phillies. I do think that something is going to happen at some point. I don't know when, because that's the thing. Like, if you do it right now, that could really mess up. That would really mess up your luxury tax situation if you address it this year, because they're already approaching the 301. That's the fourth luxury tax threshold. Every dollar spent, you get penalized at 110%. So if you would adjust it right now this year, that could really, you'd be paying a lot of money with everything else that you still want to do and need to do. So maybe they address it next off season when Castellanos comes off the books. JT Realmuto, Schwarber come off the books. Castellanos has got 2 more years left on his deal. So maybe they wait a little bit so they can, it's not as big of a hit to them tax wise. So
plus right now, they have so many priorities, relating to the 2025 roster they need to really focus on.
Right. So
Bryce Harper wants to win. They need to tweak this team a little bit. Everybody wants to win. They still need to, I see this probably coming at more of a downtime in terms of, roster construction or whatnot.
Hey, we need to get some stuff done in the next couple of years. We're trying to win. And then, once we clear off some of this other salary, we have some of these young guys come up, Painter, Miller, Crawford, Eduardo Tait, whoever it is, Starling Caba, we'll adjust and pay you a little bit more. So
I don't think we're convincing Ruben. He looks skeptical.
No, Ruben is skeptical. That's, hey, little difference of opinion is good. So they still need a corner outfielder. Alec Bohm is still out there. The Phillies may have made a big point, and Scott Boras addressed this as well. He says, we've received no indication that the Phillies are actively shopping Alec Bohm, but they've told everybody that he's available if you want to make the deal. It's all semantics. But do you guys have any feeling or sense of, where they should go, how they should do it? The Phillies are going to be linked to Alex Bregman, for instance, until he signs. Problem there is how much. And how do you orchestrate a simultaneous move at the same time for Alec Bohm? Ruben, you've done one of those, not by choice, but you traded Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay almost simultaneously. Again, that's nothing that you wanted to do, but you were kind of told to do it. I know people, no matter how many times you say it, people forget. But what do you guys think about Bregman, about any other options they might have?
Do you think this little mini offensive that Rob Thompson went on kind of saying, we're not shopping Alec Bohm. Teams have come to us, but we're not shopping Alec Bohm. And he made a phone call to him to say that. And then, Boras says, we've been told they're not trading him or whatever he said to that effect. I'm sure that came from his communication with the Phillies at the winter meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that is kind of a reaction to the fact that the Phillies ain't getting much love on them on the market, and they're kind of now shifting or resigning themselves to the fact that he's going to be in Clearwater and they better, smooth this thing over because he's an important player and you need production? What do you think? Am I way off base?
That's a great point.
You may not be way off base, but I think they had to do that anyway because there's so much talk about it. I mean, I think it was important for Alec Bohm to know that they're not necessarily out there shopping the man. They're the people, but they're talking about other players, and he's one of the players that would have a lot of value. And it is also possible they're not getting the value that they want, and it's not going to make their team necessarily better. But there's still a lot of offseason left, man. People have a lot of work to do. People have to improve on their teams, and it's a long way to go yet. I mean, everybody wants to have everything happen right away. Sometimes things take a while to get done. Some conversations, there's different teams wanting different players. There may be other. Bregman's still out there. He's a big third baseman. Mm-hmm. Maybe once he signs, and whoever doesn't sign him, then there's another dynamic that's created for the Alec Bohm market. I'm not saying that he's going to get traded. And I think if he does get traded, they better get whacked in the head with a really solid package on the way back, because this is a good player, man, really good player, and they can't lose sight of that. I had a harebrained idea though, and I don't like the idea, but I had a harebrained one. There was some talk about the Angels being involved. What about getting Logan O'Hoppe back for Alec Bohm and taking on a significant amount of Mike Trout's contract for Alec Bohm? 2 for 1.
Wow.
Now they're going to lose. They're going to lose. JT's done after 2025. This is basically going to be his last year unless they want to resign him. They get Logan O'Hoppe, and that adds to their young core of players. They get him back. They also get a really good offensive player if he's on the field. I'm not a big, I like Mike Trout, and I know he has a tough time getting on the field, and he's owed a lot of money. Let the Angels pay a lot of it down later down the road. They get, and the Angels get a pretty good player that they can hold on to for a couple of years. I don't know if that's realistic, but I'll toss it out there. Because I've been tossing crazy ideas for the last 2 weeks.
I think that's a trade that a lot of Phillies fans would like to see happen, but how much money would the Angels have to pay down for that to become attractive to the Phillies? I remember, Ruben, a few weeks ago, we were talking about Byron Buxton. He said the guy's never on the field. The most valuable asset a player can be is just his availability to play baseball games.
But you're getting O'Hoppe back, and you're talking about a core premium position player, not the most important position on the field. For me,
but you might have just explained core, middle of diamond, premium position. You might have just explained why the Angels would not include him in that deal. So, I mean, they love him. He's those are players that stick around 7-8 years. I don't know. It depends how much they pay down Trout. And I just don't know that they would include O'Hoppe. I think he's someone they really like and want to kind of build around.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do a deal unless they get a player like that back for Alec Bohm, because Alec Bohm isn't already an all-star.
Yes.
Let's not forget.
Let's not forget that Alec Bohm is an all-star.
Don't they have an all-star third baseman over there?
Yeah, right.
They did. They thought they were getting one.
Talk about unavailability.
That's a lot of
mentally and physically.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of bad money out there in contracts. So the Phillies have work to do. We've talked about it. Dave Dombrowski said, maybe they're making a trade. And in the follow-up to that Crochet deal, he said, you trade anybody at a particular time, but it's not a driving force for us at this time. We'd give up anybody for the right player. But at this point, I don't know that the timing is right for us to give up that type of quality and quantity of players. So, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're being judicious in how who they give these guys up for.
Yeah, I almost feel like, and maybe this is too strong, but I don't have a better way to describe it. But almost like they're a little bit between a rock and a hard place. Maybe not quite that strong, but you get the idea between, they feel like they need to hang on to some of these prospects because their nucleus is getting older, north of 30, so they need guys to move in when they're up there. And also they're bumping up against that fourth luxury tax, that 301. The desire to hang on to some of these prospects because you need them in the short term, or the not too long term here, and the payroll and the tax. It's like those two forces are kind of squeezing you a little bit in terms of what you can do to move this current roster forward. On top of it, a lot of inflexibility on the roster because of age and long-term contracts and salaries. So it's I do believe they're going to bring in an outfielder. I really do.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how they're going to do it. I think they're getting squeezed on the prospect side and the payroll side a little bit.
So this I will tell you what this reminds me of exactly, gentlemen. It reminds me of 2011 to 2012, that in between time. And I hope they make decisions that are better than mine ultimately, because we did have the injury to a bunch of guys. Now they went south. Hopefully, one, they have a lot more luck and they don't have to deal with those kind of injuries. It'd be like, Harper going down with Achilles or, something like that. And then,
Halladay.
and then Turner going down with like knee problems. You don't want to have that happen, obviously. And hopefully that's not the case and that they can add on without impunity. Because when I added a guy like Papelbon, there was some impunity there because our guys went south physically, and you just hope, and on top of that, losing a guy like Zach Wheeler at the top of your rotation to injury. So you lose those three guys, you're in trouble, and hopefully they're not dealing with that sort of issue.
Yeah, a lot of time to go. Maybe they'll get something done before Christmas. If not, again, I think pitchers and catchers report on like February 12th or 13th or 14th.
Really? No, the other thing I want to say about that is the other thing I want to say about that is this is still a top 5 team in baseball with talent. As far as talent, if these guys are on the field and they're playing, this is still a top 5 team in talent in baseball, and so let's not lose sight of that as well.
Yeah, I know. Like people have heard Dave Dombrowski. Dave has gone out of his way to mention we're a top 5 offense for most of the year. We're a top 5 offense. We didn't play well at the right time and against the Mets and the NLDS. Rob Thompson has said the same thing, and I know that's frustrating for fans because say, yeah, but you spit the bit in 2023 in the NLCS, and you didn't play that great in the second half of the 2024 season, and you didn't play that great against the Mets. So I don't want to hear anything about a top 5 offense. But at being at the winter meetings this past week, nobody's coming up to the Philly. Nobody was coming up to me going like, "So you guys, the Phillies going to start selling guys because they're screwed?" I mean, this team's going downhill fast. Nationally, in the game of baseball, the Phillies are still regarded as a top 5 team, a World Series contending team. And so it's not just like, well, of course, Dave's trying to set up this crappy offense because they're not going to go out and get anybody. No, I mean, the view amongst people in baseball is that they're a pretty good team and they could win the World Series next year.
Correct. If the ball rolls the right way and they play better baseball at the right time. Now, I know the fans don't want to hear that necessarily, but that's true.
Right.
I agree. There's a lot of teams around baseball that would like to have the Phillies problems. But the fact of the matter is, they were a 500 team after about June 10th. Including the postseason, just right on the nose, 500. So, they need to play better. We like their personnel. That personnel needs to improve and play better. They still need a tweak. And just, I do sense impatience around town with fans that they haven't done more yet. I as Ruben said, it's a long off season. And I remind folks about the winter when they acquired JT Realmuto. It's, when Realmuto was on the block and he was rumored to go to Cincinnati, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Braves, and none of those things materialized. And all of a sudden, early February came around and an opportunity presented itself for the Phillies, and they ended up with JT Realmuto. You never know what opportunity will present itself and when, and that's why, as hard as it is to do, sometimes you need to exercise patience. I think patience is a really good quality in the game of baseball, and it could be now as they construct their roster here in the off season, and that patience needs to be carried right through to the trade deadline.
Right.
Again, they're going to make tweaks to improve this thing right till then, and you hope they're the right tweaks and good things happen. We will see. It's still really early in the in terms of the construction of the team that you're going to take into the playoffs next year if you get there.
I have great faith in Dave Dombrowski, man. The man knows what he's doing. He's had success. He's a Hall of Famer. He's going to get it done.
My mail carrier knocked on my door yesterday. He handed me a package, and he goes, "Are they going to do something at some point?" And I said, there's a long way to go. They'll get something done before spring training. So I try to, calm his nerves a little bit.
That is the sentiment there. There's no doubt about that.
That's right.
Ruben, I got to ask you before we go here, you proposed the Kyle Tucker trade, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
We lose Ruben. Oh, he's messing with the computer. He doesn't want to answer the question.
What did you say?
Oh, we're losing Ruben's connection, so that's actually a good segue out of here.
We'll ask him next time.
Yeah, we'll ask him next time. Jim, Ruben.
He didn't want to answer the question. That's weak.
Gutless, totally gutless.
He's jamming the computer.
Can you believe that? What the
Mute him so he doesn't pop back in.
All right. Well, Jim, I'm going to drop a smell you later on you. We'll be back next week. We got some good episodes coming up.
All right. Smell you later.
The Phillies Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Phillies Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.